because honestly, I think if I had to pick the worst thing I've ever done, it would be we're just kicking off here, and so we're jumping into the podcast chat right now. Which, if you didn't listen to the podcast, that's totally fine. Just a quick refresher: what we talked about this week to jog our minds, and prime the pump here is the dangers of being vulnerable. That was the first thing we talked about. That's something that I've been kind of talking about from my own perspective. The week before, we talked about the good things about being vulnerable, how important it is for us to be vulnerable, weak, meek. And this week was the dangers of it. And then we talked about how women aren't the problem, which is it came from when Ravi Zacharias and really a bunch of other, Christian leaders blew their whole lives up and hurt a bunch of women and hurt a bunch of churches and how can we not have that happen anymore? And that kind of leaned into, well, an overcorrection would be to go and say women are the problem. We need to just avoid women. Let's, men shouldn't be anywhere near women. And the article that we covered and looked at was basically, don't do that. Women are not the problem. And then we talked about in Pilgrim's Progress, which every week we do a little bit more Pilgrim's Progress study. We talk about Christian who meets simple and sloth and presumption. And each of those three guys are stuck lined up against a tree off the road with shackles on their feet and a lion's coming to get them. But they're all three there for three different reasons. We talked about simple, who's there because he doesn't want to study and he doesn't want to learn. Sloth, who's there because he's just too lazy to get up. And presumption, who's there because he thinks he knows better than everybody else. But they're all going to get eaten by the lion. They're all in danger. And so that's what we're talking about. And so that's what, for the first little while, that's what we're going to go to. And so what I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. But there's something called a SpeakPipe page, which we have, which is it's a technology that allows you to record your voice so I can hear it. And so I always start with SpeakPipe because I encourage you. I want to hear your voice. So I always throw do the SpeakPipe page stuff first. So here is the first question from David.
Hello there, Pastor. David from Germany again. First, to your own mission directive. I think what you're doing is really good. There's a lot of people out there that need Christ, but basically only interact via video games. So though that might seem like a strange mission field, it's a gigantic one with way too few missionaries. So I think, again, what you're doing is good. As an ardent video gamer, let me give you a small advice though. Look into local co-op, meaning that people known to you personally via Discord are allowed to play in certain games in co-op on your stream with you. That would get more people involved and you would have a more interactive audience. My second advice goes into the same direction, more audience interaction. Play games with a gripping story. Why? Because a let's play is basically like watching a movie with a friend. If the story is good, all movies get better. Also, if there are important character decisions to make, the audience feels like they are not only watching a great movie, but also that they can help get the direction of the movie. Just my advice.
Sorry about that echo. Yeah, my computer Streamlabs was being wonky. It's supposed to be going through my headphones, and somehow it's going through my speakers, and I had it going through both. So I hopefully I've fixed that by now. Your point is Twitch is a weird mission field, but here's the thing, and this is something that I learned from another streamer, that there are people all over the world that for the Christian, okay, let me back up. The Christian church, one of our main things that we want to do is go and serve people, love people, get to know people, and introduce them to Jesus. That's kind of what we're all about. But traditionally, that was done in the public forum, in the public square. We would go out to, we'd go to their work, we'd go to their where they play, we'd hang out in their teams, we'd join their groups, we would, serve them in the city, we'd go and feed the hungry, and or we'd meet them at the park, or they would come to us during a special event. We'd open our church. They'd come to watch a movie or whatever. But now that doesn't happen. Hey, man, how you doing, Unification? Good to see you. So that doesn't happen right now. People are at home, and not just because of COVID, but before COVID even started, people were just staying home. It was work, home, video games, TV, movies, work. And so how do you get to those people? How do you love those people? How do you introduce them to Jesus? How do you meet them and find out what they need so that you can help them? Like, how do you go and say, okay, we care about you. What are your problems? The only way to do that is to go where they are, and they are not out, they are in. And so the only way to contact them is through online media. And most people that are sitting at home, there's a lot of people sitting at home right now, especially people that are struggling with being ostracized or depression and being not being part of a crowd. They're the video game folks, right? So, oh no, spelling error in the title. How dare you? How dare I? The idea is to go to them. The idea is to use Twitch to get into their homes to find out how we can love them. And anyway, so yeah, your point is, you talk about local co-ops and playing together. So that what I need from you is for you to help me find games that you guys want to play. I want to play the games you guys want to play. I'll learn them, I'll figure them out, and we can play together. And I know that there's a ton, but I don't want to just pick Valorant or what's the other new one, or Call of Duty, or whatever. I don't necessarily want to just pick a popular one. What do you want to play? And I'm happy to play with you. I'd love to do that. In fact, Minecraft right now. Minecraft is huge. And so I would love to start a Minecraft group and where we can all hang out and build and chat and have an adventure and talk together. That'd be really cool. I'd love to do that. So help me know. I don't know what Don't Starve is. I would love to see that link. So, talk about gripping story games. That's one reason I'm glad you guys suggested Thimbleweed Park. And so I'm looking forward to playing that game because it is story-based. It is going to be like watching a movie. It's being like interactive movie. But there's a lot more. Has anybody watched the Before Your Eyes thing it's just got popular. Everybody's kind of playing it. It's the one where the webcam looks at your eyes, and if you blink, the story changes. Oh, you don't craft the mine? There are people out there that don't play Minecraft? I don't think that. I don't believe you. Every human being is Minecrafted. Come on. No, I actually have both now. I have Java and I have Bedrock. But there are lots more. So if you've seen Before Your Eyes, or you've seen Detroit Become Human, or Telltale games, any of the Telltale games really, the only issue is that I don't want to play games that are rated M. And so many of those are rated M. Like, if it's all about sex and violence and gore and shock, I don't want to play it. I'm not into that. That's not what this place is all about. So what I want to do is I want to find good games, compelling games, fun games. Like, keep it around T, everybody in T, and then let's play. Yeah, and the thing about Thimbleweed Park is that I have no clue what's going on. I've installed it, and I haven't even ran it. I'm really looking forward to playing it. All right, so David's got another question, and so let me play David's second question here.
Hello, Pastor Al. Another one from me about vulnerability. On one hand, I agree with what you said, and on the other hand, I have to disagree with you. You put all humans basically in two boxes. First, those that admit failure and are honest about their weaknesses, and second, those that hate that kind of honesty and try to silence vulnerable people in an attempt to silence their own conscience. I agree that those two people types exist. But I disagree with the premise that being vulnerable to the second kind of person is the only real danger you get into when you're being honest. Another type of danger are the people that long to hear the weaknesses of a person. Why? Because they will then use that weakness to their own advantage. They will not hate it. They will not get angry. They will be nice to you. They will be coaxing you to reveal your secrets. And then when the time is right, they will use it to crush you. There are also other types of people in the world that will use your vulnerability against you. Those are the power-hungry ones. They will feed the fire of your weakness once they know it, and get a great power trip out of seeing you fail and fall. So in conclusion, you should take great care with whom you are totally honest and with whom you will show vulnerability, because some people long to hear that and will use it to crush you, destroy your mission and your life. That's my idea of that.
You're not wrong. And that was kind of the whole point. And I didn't mean the only danger that are people like that'll hurt you. But you're absolutely right that we should be careful with it. But here's the thing, and your point of the only people that are dangerous are the ones that are going to use it against you or get mad at you right there. There are also those who are going to listen to you, really listen to you, and then they're kind of putting it in the bank so that they can bang on you later. By the way, hey there, Yelnik, good to see you. You're right. There are ones who are going to feed off of your weakness, and then they're going to get a power trip off of it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I honestly think that one of the dangers of you got to be careful who you share with, which is absolutely true. It's sort of similar to the conversation about women, is making that blanket statement of going, well, then how will I know who I can share with? How will I be able to share? Maybe I should just keep everybody at a distance, and you can't really trust anyone. And that's a real dangerous temptation, especially right now, because the number one thing that Satan wants you to be is alone. That way you're an easy target. And the world just will make it so easy to be alone. The whole world right now, drive by yourself and live by yourself, and you don't need to even cook for yourself. You can, porn is just you pleasuring yourself. Like, all the things that we used to need community for, whether it be help with work or help with having fun or teams or whatever, they all happen at home now. They're all people can be alone. The one that you didn't mention, by the way, is the people that want to hear your weaknesses and hear your vulnerabilities, but make you stay there. They want you to live in the muck, live in the misery, because they want to be there with you. It gives them permission to be miserable. So they want to be in what's called homeostasis. They want to stay the same. And you being miserable and them being miserable together gives you both permission to just stay miserable. There are dangers in being vulnerable. But I think what I'm saying is, you know what? I think if you're gonna err, and this is from experience, this is 20 years of experience, at least, I still think you should err on the side of sharing. I think you should err on the side of being vulnerable, letting people in, giving them the opportunity, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and then letting, seeing if they will, seeing what they'll do. Because if you are secure with yourself and you're okay with yourself and you know that the only way you're going to get help and the only way you're going to get love, the only way you're going to get true relationship is by being vulnerable, opening yourself up to that kind of stuff, then take the when it comes to cost benefit, the benefit far outweighs the cost. It outweighs the danger. And for me, it's tough. Like I spent the last 17 years standing on a stage, telling people not only my opinions, but what I believe about the Bible and about politics and about God and about telling them how they should live their lives, and the giving people counsel, and all of that had to come from a place where I shared with them who I was. And I felt that I wouldn't have earned the right to talk to them if I didn't share with them what my struggles were, where I felt weak, that when I didn't know. If I stood up there and I lived as a preacher that thought he knew everything and my answers were always right, then I think I would have lost credibility. For me to be able to go, you know what? I don't know. Here are the 4 different ways that people have thought about this. Or, this is something I'm struggling with too. I think we should all work better on this. Me included. I think that's the best way to do it. So my advice is to err towards the side of being vulnerable and honest and open and having a chance to build that relationship. And then if they shoot you in the foot, if they stab you in the back, here's what I've learned. I've had a lot of people take my vulnerabilities and use them against me. In fact, I've lost 2 jobs because of it. They've used what I've said, they've twisted it, and they've spread their version of it, got a bunch of people worked up, and it became a big problem. A accusation that wasn't true based on something that I'd said. And I'll tell you what, for example, I said at one point, I never thought I would be a pastor. I always wanted to be a computer guy. When I was in school, I had no idea what God's call was for my life. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. In my 3rd year of master's degree, I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, what God called me to. No idea. And it wasn't until God said, okay, be a minister. Here's a church, that I went, okay, because it was a matter of God pointing me in the right direction, because I didn't know what to do. And they took that and they said, Pastor Al was never called to ministry, so therefore he shouldn't be pastor here. Do I regret telling them my story? No. Because I have been able to sit with people, talk to people, share with people, counsel people that heard that story and went, I'm lost too. The fact that you were able to wait so long, or the fact that you were able to hear God give me hope, it gave me permission to not panic. What's it like to sit there and not have a clue, but continue to go through all the school and be so worried you're going the wrong direction? We can talk about that. So I think the benefit outweighs the cost. I don't regret telling people things. I remember one funny story. There was an old man in a previous church, and he got his knickers in a knot. He was so mad at me, not because I'd done anything, but apparently his habit is to just suddenly get upset with the pastor. He did it for the last 3 pastors. I didn't know about that. Other people did. And I tried to work with this guy. I tried to reconcile with this guy. I tried to meet with him, all the rest of it, and it wasn't having it. Finally, the other elder stepped in and said, we should have a meeting. And this guy sat there, and he was just fuming. And he's Pastor Al hates women, and Pastor Al is no good, and Pastor Al should leave. And he holds his folder up, and he goes, I have a folder here, and I've been keeping track of all the things Pastor Al's been doing, and I'm going to tell everybody. And I said, please do. If I have done a folder full of bad things, and I am that disqualified for ministry, and you know that many things about me that I have hidden and I've gotten wrong and I've done wrong, and you have a responsibility to tell everybody everything that's in that folder, because I shouldn't be in the pulpit and I shouldn't be doing counseling. I should be fired. So please tell everybody everything that's in that folder. He shut up. He put the folder down and didn't have anything else to say. That was his trump card. That was his big play. And nothing was in the file. He never shared any of it because that file was empty. Do I regret telling stories, giving people ammunition to use against me? It's hurt at times, but I think the only way I've been able to have a successful ministry, or have any kind of success in ministry, is through honesty, is through vulnerability, is through giving people permission to grab my innards and squeeze them. And I think that's the only way to have a good marriage. It's the only way to parent. Because if your kids think that you never think you're wrong and you've never done anything wrong in your life, that you will lose them, because you're unrealistic and you're a hypocrite, and they know it. But if you're able to go, you know what, I blow it. I'm sorry. That was the wrong. I reacted wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I punished you too hard. I gave you a lecture and I didn't listen. Some people think you shouldn't do that with your kids, but you absolutely should. You have to. Vulnerability is the foundation of these relationships, and as dangerous as it is, it's the only way to build a strong foundation for a relationship. All right, let's do one more. Dave's got one more question, and I'm gonna push play. I really appreciate David asking these questions. By the way, it's really good fodder for conversation. So here's what he says.
Hello there, Pastor Al. Yep, me again. This time you'll get a lot of speak pipe. To your thoughts about the Pilgrim's Progress. I really like the way you gave those characters life. It's very obvious that you have been a pastor for many years. Am I right with the idea that you immediately had pictures of some people in your head when you wrote that part of your podcast? Could I just add my few cents to your thoughts? First, the simple guy. In terms of simple, I don't think he's just a dummy, but rather willfully dumb. If things are simple, you have control over it. You can handle it, it doesn't threaten you. So consciously keeping it simple will help keep your faith controllable. You're the master of it. But faith is a gift of God. It is something that is not under our control, but rather opens our eyes to an anything but simple world. And that world is not under our control, nor is our great God. That is really scary to some people. That is why they try their best to keep it dumb, to keep it simple, so they can remain in control over it. Then the lazy guy also seems like more of a symptom than an underlying problem. I think it is that he has a known sin in his life. He doesn't want to be reminded of it. He's smothering his conscience as good as he can, but in church it all becomes too much for him. So he stays away, doesn't read his Bible, doesn't listen to theology and all that.
Yeah, there's a lot in that question. Let me just hit the comments before I jump into that. Lidgate says, I suppose it's rather the question, who should I tell about my porn addiction, alcohol abuse, whatever. Yeah, who should I tell? That's a good question. Do you go and do you spread that about, to everybody? Here, I would say if you watch somebody who's been through, let's use alcohol. What's their process? How did they go about it? Well, they will go and they'd start with a safe group. As in, they'll go to AA, they'll go to an addictions counseling, they'll go to a hospital, they'll go to some group that is dedicated to people who have that problem, right? They will go, I have this problem, please help me, and they will go, okay, we know how to do that because that's who we deal with. And that is the safest of environments. The people who have that problem, whether it be porn addiction or alcohol addiction, drug addiction, whether it be anger problems or, whatever it is, you go to that group. You go to that counselor, you go to that, whatever it is. That's the number one place. But after that, if you listen to these people who have victory over their pornography addiction, their alcohol addiction, victory over their anger, you'll hear them talk about it all the time. It'll be part of their, I was going to say zeitgeist because I was talking about German words today, but no, part of their normal conversation. It's almost like they can't not relate the conversation to that, because you'll hear all the time, like, man, I understand. I used to be a really angry person. I really used to get mad at everybody. I'd fly off the handle all the time, but God got a hold of my heart. Jesus got a hold of my heart. I got some help. I used to be addicted to drugs. I used to, be addicted to sex. I used to, hurt myself and other people, but this is how now they use it as a bridge to relate to people. So I would say that it starts with, you tell the people who are focused on that problem, who you have an issue or have a solution for it, or at least can help you, but then it doesn't stay there. It's going to naturally flow out into everybody else and become part of your story, because now it's no longer something shameful. It's something that you tell it as a victory. Personal victory that God gave in your life, and a bridge to be able to help other people. I think that's the way to do it. Ever Killian says, I agree with you, but I was thinking more in the terms of the average churchgoer. Don't blindly trust people. I trust my wife with everything that goes on in my life, but I would not trust everyone in the church on the same level. Yep, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. You should be careful. Yeah, you're right. I guess my challenge is don't immediately write everybody off. just because they're part of the crowd. I still think you should lean towards being more vulnerable than more cautious. That's just me. A lot of people have been hurt by that, and I've been hurt massively by it. But I still think that's the right thing to do. But come to your question about Pilgrim's Progress, simple being willfully stupid. Well, actually, what your first thing was, do I have certain people in my head? I try not to. I've always had that. In fact, if I ever found that I was writing a sermon for a person because they had annoyed me, or because I knew that they were doing something wrong, or because, something had happened and I felt I needed to address it, if it was for an individual, if I found I was writing that sermon, I would stop and I'd delete it. And I'd say, this is a conversation should be having with that person, not from the pulpit. And so I try not to have certain people in my head. And really, what I try to do is I try to keep categories based on experience and based on study, right? And so I know these people exist. Have I met them? Yes. Have I been one? Yes, sometimes, but I try not to have individuals in mind. I have tried to practice that. Simple is willfully stupid, you said. Yeah. I think you got a point. It's hard to, like, even in the story, he knows where the path is. He knows he's going to go lie down. He knows that he's been warned about a lion, but he's choosing not to accept that knowledge. I think it's not a matter of he's, intellectually inferior, or he's, he's got some kind of mental, difficulty that doesn't let him learn. It's a willful stupidity. It's a willful ignorance because, and as you said, ignorance is bliss. If they were honest with themselves, if they looked deeper into things, they'd suddenly start having doubts. They'd start being convicted of sins that they didn't realize. They'd start seeing the world in a different way. All of a sudden, everything would become far more complicated, and some people just don't want that. And so they live simple. They live as black and white as they possibly can. No shades of gray, and because for them, doubt creates fear. Honesty creates conviction. Right and wrong creates division. They don't want any of that. The lazy person, I think you're absolutely right. Again, he's lazy on purpose. And your point of he wants to hang on to his sin, I think you've got a very good point behind that he doesn't want to repent. It requires energy to repent, to pray, to talk to God, to go to the person you hurt, to put up to work on the full measure of repentance, where you actually try to go fix the problem and make it right. And so it's just so much easier. It's so much if you just pretend that and just go to sleep. I'll deal with that later. I'll talk to that person another time. If this isn't a good time right now, I'll pray tomorrow. I feel like garbage and I just did something terrible and horrible. But if I know that if I just wait 9 hours, I go and have some ice cream and I have a good sleep and I take my whatever medication and I go distract myself with work, then I'm going to feel better later and I won't have to have dealt with it. I'll stick it in the box. I'll put it aside. That's laziness, but it's also so dangerous. I mean, that's the danger of laziness, right? Even physiologically, the lazier you are, the more danger you have of dying, because now your heart's working harder and your body's full of gunk and your muscles are atrophying and you can't walk. And if someone bumps into you, you fall down and you break your knee. Because the ligaments and joints and the supporting muscles just haven't been used, and therefore you get injured more easily, not because you are fragile, but because you haven't been using those muscles. Laziness is dangerous, but it's an easy thing to do because it's not doing anything, right? I think we all know that. There's actually another question, and go ahead and keep commenting about whatever you want, but there's another question that came through social media. A person named Cyberspace said, you really seem to dislike Billy Graham's rule about never being alone in a room with a woman who's not your wife. Do you think that maybe this is good advice for well-known leaders and politicians, but not ordinary people? David, you actually sent a similar question. What about temptation? isn't presumption the same thing, that thinking he's stronger than he really is, that he can go, meet with a woman and it won't be a problem? Isn't that the same thing? I would say this. I'm going to say a few things. First, to answer the question that David had asked about, what about temptation? And don't you think that we should try to avoid temptation to be around women that are going to be a problem, or for women to be around men that are going to be a problem, or, whatever it is? In the realm of women, I would say this. And this is going to sound a little bold, maybe. Women aren't treats. They're not candy that if you just don't buy it and have it in your house, then you'll be able to stick to your diet. Women aren't alcohol. You can't just say, I have a problem with it, so I just will never go around it. You can't say I have a problem with lust, so I'll never go around women. They're not objects. They're not things to be consumed. They're not inherently dangerous. Your appetite for them, your appetite for a connection to them, is not inherently problematic in them. Candy is high in sugar, and therefore having too much of it is bad. So the candy by itself can be you can say the candy is bad for you. Women aren't. Alcohol by its very nature is, destructive to your body, poisonous to your body, and women aren't that. So I don't think it works the same way to say women are in the category of we just got to not be around them because they are, they're dangerous, and therefore we got to just make sure we're not around women. Think about Joseph, right? Sort of the classic illustration of someone who was avoiding temptation. Joseph, he's head guy in Potiphar's house. His wife looks at Joseph and sees that he's pretty good looking, wants to have sex with him, invites him into the room and says, hey, let's do it. Joseph takes off like a shot. No! And he's gone. Does that get him in trouble? Yeah. She falsely accuses him of rape. He ends up in jail for multiple years because he didn't do what she wanted, and he ran away from temptation, did what God wanted. But here's the thing. He went into the room. He still walked into the room to talk to her alone. Why? That was his job. That was his, she was his boss. She was valuable. Her needs were important. Her perspectives on how the house should be ran and all the things were important. Therefore, he still walked into the room. He still put himself in that position because she has value, because she's important, because the issue isn't her. The issue is lust. And so as soon as that came up, he took off. Jesus hung around women, right? Jesus hung around with women who had bad reputations, women who were so spiritually broken that they thought their only value was to give their sexuality to men. Right? That's the only way they could have any value to anybody. That's the only way they could find validation, the only way they could make any money, whatever it is. He didn't avoid those women. He loved them and respected them. Okay? Sarah Killen, what do you say? I agree with you. No. I still think that it's weird because it's fight like Don Quixote. I don't know anyone who thinks like that. Yeah. I would never suggest the meeting with a woman is bad. All I say is meeting with women alone is bad. This is not an issue about women. This is a sin issue. Yes, Jesus did, but I am not on the level of Jesus morally. Yeah, yes, okay. But again, I would never say, okay, let me move on to the question that Cyberspace asked, which is, I never said I disliked the rule. I've learned that having that kind of hard and fast rule, that complete wall, has flaws, okay? Having guards are important. Having accountability, letting people know where you are, making sure that you're above board, meeting in public, letting your schedule be known to others, letting the woman know, this is, these are the limitations. This is kind of what I want to do. This is what the meeting's going to be about. So she feels safe, not doing it in a hotel room, not doing it in over a candlelit dinner, all that kind of stuff. Do it smart, be smart. Make sure your sin doesn't get the better of you. Setting yourself up for failure is stupid. Because that's where presumption comes in, right? As soon as you get hungry, as soon as you're angry, as soon as you're lonely, as soon as you get tired, suddenly all those things that you never thought would have been a problem, are suddenly become. And if both you and the woman are hungry, lonely, angry, tired, suddenly sin becomes a lot easier, right? You never planned on it, but suddenly it becomes easier because your guard is down. So you put up those barriers. I totally agree. But as a pastor, as a leader in a community, if, say, a woman calls you and she has a health problem, right? Or there's an old lady there who's lonely, or a young woman who's just been harmed in some way. She wants help and counsel and comfort. And you, because of your hard and fast rule, won't go. Sorry, no. I will not come and help you. I will not come and comfort you. I will not come and visit you. I will not come and serve you because you're a woman. I think that's the danger, right? Should you bring your wife along? Should you bring a person along? Sure, bring a person along. That's better. But for you to say, no, I will never do that, I think that's wrong, because it implies that woman, that girl, that old lady is the problem. I think you should have accountability and you should have all the barriers up, but don't treat the women like they're a problem. As a politician, as a boss, as a coworker, making it so you can't have a private meeting with any woman ever is going to cause you to lose out on their very valuable counsel, because there are certain things that these professional women, or these women in your church, or women in your arena, or whatever it is, she's an architect or whatever, for you to say, I'm never going to be alone with you, you're going to miss out on her valuable counsel. You're going to miss out on what she has to say, because some things she's going to want to say with nobody else around, because it's important, and it's, say if it's lawyer stuff or doctor stuff. And to say, no, I will never be alone with you, is to give the impression that you think they are inherently untrustworthy, or they're unworthy of talking to you, or that men are better and easier and safer, and they'll never whatever, use something against you, or hurt you in some way, which is totally not true. Men and women are equally miserable creatures and equally of value. And therefore, I just think there's that you shouldn't hard and fast it. Should Billy Graham have? Probably. That was probably a very good rule for Billy Graham. And because, why? He was a global evangelist, right? Ravi Zacharias, if he had the Billy Graham rule, he wouldn't have been in the massage parlors doing bad stuff with people, saying bad stuff to women. So, because he's on a global level, I think they have to be extra, extra, extra careful. The temptation on their shoulders, the temptation to come to them, are unlike anything we have, us normal human beings. So I think it's different for them. The president of the United States, or a politician, or someone who's pastor of a mega church or something like that. They have their temptations on another level. So maybe their barriers have to be a lot different. But as an average individual, I think you're what cyberspace said. For us, be careful, but I don't think we can live like women are the problem. Lego Jack says, I also feel like Joseph isn't a great example. He was a slave. He didn't have much choice, and she accused him of raping her when he didn't do what she wanted. Yeah, that's a good point. He didn't have a choice but to go in. That's a good point. But I would say, didn't he though? Because his whole point was, the whole point of the story was, he valued God's opinion above anyone else's. He listened to God's voice above anyone else's. And so if he felt that the right thing to do was to avoid being in a room with any other woman, he would have done like a Daniel, he would have said, we're not eating your food. When they said, we're not eating your food, we only want to eat vegetables. We want permission to do that, and we'll prove that it's the right thing to do, because it would be wrong for us to eat your food. He would have pulled that, but he didn't. Right? Now, maybe I'm splitting hairs, and your point is valid. I'm sure there's better examples, but I think my point is that I don't know where in the Bible you would see someone saying women are dangerous, or women and men in the room can't be together, or women and men can't be friends. I just don't think it's there. You got lots of warnings. Don't don't go wandering off with an adulterous woman. Some men are horrible, and they're going to be, really dangerous, and so don't, be careful with them. But I don't see the hard and fast rule of no man in a room with a woman. Everkillian says, in the last 2 weeks, I met with a young woman because I'm a resident teacher when it comes to end times. And she had questions. We met in the cafeteria of the local church. People were walking in and out. Everyone could see that we did not do something we should not. In your example, how about taking an additional elder or another woman along? Yeah. Yes. Nothing. Yeah. I'm not saying don't do that. Definitely do. If you can, do it. Right. What I'm saying is that hard and fast rule is not in the Bible, and that hard and fast rule is going to shoot you in the foot at some point, and it's going to create it creates an underlying concept that the issue is the woman, not the sin, right? And for you to say you can never be alone in a room for the woman under any circumstances, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I agree. Put up the barriers. Be careful. Bring another person. Meet in public. Yeah, all that stuff. But I think the hard and fast rule is a little too black and white. I don't think I know anybody who says women in and of themselves are dangerous. The implication, though, right? My point is the implication that I can't be alone with any woman on the planet because any of them at any point could whatever, That's the danger. I think that there's a similar thing between, I don't walk down dark alleys at night versus all men are violent jerks, right? Why do you avoid the dark alley at night? Well, because might be a guy down there who's going to do something bad. But saying I avoid all men because some of them do something bad is wrong. It's pointing everybody with the same brush, and we shouldn't. Ledgate says, or Everkillian, hold on, what am I missing here? Ledgate, I don't think I know anybody who says women are dangerous. Yeah. I think a real danger lies in developing relationships through repeated meetings. Yes. Yes, sort of. Developing romantic feelings is bad. Developing relationships is not. How can we treat, as the Bible says, treat older women like our mothers, younger women like our daughters, treat, women our age like sisters, if we're not going to be able to develop a relationship with them? We can't. How do we protect them and love them and be honest with them and get their counsel and hear their perspective and build trust with them if we don't have a relationship with them? Now, am I saying, build romantic feelings? No. I'm saying that I don't think you can do the one another's in the Bible, bear one another burdens, encourage one another, confess your sins to one another, if you're eliminating half of the human race and assuming that you can't be in any kind of emotional relationship with a woman. I don't think that's what the Bible says. I don't think that's what God wants. In German, we have a saying, Ausnahmen. No, I'm going to try it. Ausnahmen bestätigen der Regel. Yeah, it means exceptions confirm the rule. Yeah, we have the same thing. It's the exception that makes the rule. Meaning if you make exceptions, you know that they are exceptions and they confirm that there's overarching rule. Yep. That's what I'm saying too. Yep, absolutely. Very similar. I imagine a pastor can be faced with similar problems a psychiatrist faces with some patients. Yeah. Or doctors, or, really lawyers. I mean, any male, overwhelmingly male, office or job. Think of female engineers, right? Female, architects. Think of overwhelmingly, the STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. If you're a woman in that arena, you're going to be, it's difficult. It's extra difficult. But the reason it's extra difficult is because of inherent sexism. It shouldn't be difficult if you meet a Christian guy in the STEMs. He should be great. You should be able to study with him. You should be able to ask him questions and feel no danger around him. No leering, no staring, no second agenda, no nothing. That Christian guy should be safe and good and helpful. And in the same way the men shouldn't be scared to be around the women. They are the same thing. 99% of cases, married men do not want to be alone with another woman. Again, I don't want to make a hard and fast case. I just think be wise, be smart, be accountable, but don't paint all women with the same brush. That's not the worst pronunciation. Oh, well, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to to everything, life, the universe, and everything else. All right, so here's a message I got from Steve.
Hey Al, it's Steve Gallagher. Just wanted to say, hey, I just subscribed and excited to see what you're doing, brother. Hope you're well. I know you were talking to Kimberly earlier, so take it easy, brother. Have a great one.
That was nice. Okay, Steve Gallagher, Kim Gallagher, awesome people. Okay, she's got her own ministry, Step Forward Ministries. Very worthwhile checking out Step Forward. She's got she's an amazing artist. They're both great musicians, amazing people, kind, generous. When I was in Cleveland, and you guys have heard my story, when I was in Cleveland, one of the highlights was that they would come by, and they were part of a big church. We're like 1,000 people. And they would come into my little church of like 30, and they would play music with me, and they would come on Sunday, and they would encourage people, and we'd have special events. They're awesome people. Check out Step Forward. I want to make sure I get the address right. Yep, Step Forward. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Step Forward. Check out Step Forward Ministry with Kimberly Gallagher. She's pretty cool. She's a really, really cool lady. All right. So are there any other questions? You want to talk about anything else? Anything at all? And after that, we're going to get into tabs. We're gonna kick off playing some tabs because that's fun. So what else you got? Does anybody have any other questions? Ludgate says, I rather think the openness, looking for advice, getting a feeling of being listened to, etc. Yeah, well... Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep talking about that too much, but if you feel, if you're not getting that at home, and if you feel really lonely, and someone's giving it to you, regardless, I mean, why do you think bisexuality, homosexuality, abuse, adultery, sex before marriage, children leaving home, why? Because people aren't feeling love. And they'll do anything to get it. What's the worst thing you've... Oh, I like that start. What's the worst thing you've... Finish that. Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Trek all day. One thing about Star Trek that I like above everything else is the... And it's something that they've been criticized for so many times in the Christian realm, is the utopian idea of society that they built. In the original, you go back to the original Star Trek, the idea is, and even Next Generation in a lot of ways, the idea is we as a human race have overcome. We don't need money anymore. We've overcome poverty. We've overcome, weather problems. We've overcome all the natural issues. We've created this utopian society on Earth that we worked really hard through technology to build. And the criticism in the Christian realm is always, oh, you can't do that. That's never going to happen. The only way we're going to get that ever is through, is in heaven. But here's the thing. The whole point of the show was the sin's not gone. There's all that stuff, all the jealousy and all the backbiting and all the betrayal and anger and anguish and fear and all the rest of that stuff is still there. It's just they can make food with a transporter now, but then they go and they stab each other in the back or shoot someone. I love that part. I love the idea of thinking that when humans get together, when we're willing to pull together and we're all pulling towards something positive, we can really pull it off pretty good. I love that. That's my favorite part of Star Trek. Star Wars is fine, but they ruined it. I really loved Star Wars. I loved Empire Strikes Back. I was willing to give it another shot. I even liked the prequels, but the latest stuff just ruined it. Worst thing you've ever done? Worst thing I've ever done? Worst thing I've ever done? Worst thing I've ever done. Ever done. Ever done. Worst thing I've ever done. That's a good question. Hard to say. I've done a lot of horrible stuff. It's more of a log jam of bad things I've done than a void of trying to find something. Because honestly, I think if I had to pick the worst thing I've ever done, it would be the first time I went and sought out pornography. That would probably be the worst thing I ever did to wreck more things than anything else. So I never looked at pornography when I was a kid. I didn't look at it when I was a teen. I didn't look at it in college. I looked at pornography the first time after I was already married. So I was in my, doing my bachelor's degree, moving into my master's degree, tons of pressure, lots of tests, working, I was in a band where, we're newly married, we're looking for, do we do a kid? We moved 12 times, like we're chasing rent, the money issues and family issues and stuff. And I am a naturally curious guy. Part of the reason I'm good at school is because I like learning. I like knowing stuff. And that is the number one way Satan got me. I don't know who or what, or if I saw it in an ad or I saw something. It was a matter of me going, what does that mean? Or I wonder what that looks like. And I had for the first time I had a high-speed internet connection, and I just went looking for it. And it created something in me that became an absolute beast. It was like the first time. Have you ever had a baby? It's the first time you let them have sugar, or you let them have something that is artificially sweetened, or extra sweet. They're sitting there eating their pablum. They're sitting there eating their, their mushed up peas and their mushed up carrots and their mushed up whatever. And then you're like, would you like to try a piece of cake? They're finally old enough to have cake. And every parent knows what happens when they give their kids the first piece of sweets. Their eyes bug out of their head. They immediately start smiling and giggling, and they're like, this could be the greatest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life, because that's how it's biochemically engineered, is we're designed to love and sugar and fat and salt, and they'd never had that before. And in a similar way, that realm of knowledge opened up to me that I'd never really thought about, never really had a hunger for. And I'm like, oh, there's a whole world out there that I don't know. So I'm going to go look into it. And my brain was like, I kind of want to know this stuff. And that's where I got myself in real trouble. So I think, to me, and it takes so long to get out of it, because it's a natural impulse, right? Like the impulse for sexuality and to connect with a human being, and the hormonal changes that even men go through, it becomes really difficult to turn that tap back off. Like stopping sugar, they say it's harder than stopping heroin, and so it's that. If I had to pick something, I'd say that first Google search.